Greetings and welcome to the 6th devlog of our Dark Fantasy Medieval RPG, where we put to full use the navigation system that we started last week, with a dozen of different obstacle navigation maneuvers, detection of edges, surfaces, heights, and climbable objects, plus dynamic transitions between these and the rest of our state machine. Oh, it's been quite an adventure to discover the usefulness of raycasts once you shoot them on top of another raycast from the collision point of another raycast. After this week, I'll never see ladders in the same way again. I'm Mark from Tracker Studio. Join us in the process behind all of these resources, the new possibilities they bring to our project, plus a small surprise that we prepared at the end of the video. All of this coming up next. In our previous video we showed the basic of our navigation system applied to basic volumes for jumping up to surfaces, and we started working on including detection and interaction with fences. The addition of this logic is quite simple once you understand the physics of raycasts, but it took me quite a while to fully understand them. Not so much the use of raycast itself, but integrating everything together. The orientation of the character, timing the movement with our eye-tuning system, knowing when to isolate the previous and the new raycast information with each change of state. I ended up adding, subtracting, and multiplying vectors, directions, and quaternions in my dreams with that so many tests and adjustments I had to perform. I ended up frying quite a few brain cells in the process, in most cases with unexpected results.
Dios mío, ¿qué está pasando?
But in the end, we managed to make sense of everything, and integrating animation curves to the eye-twin movement allowed us to configure more precise adjustments. It should be clarified that the animations are not yet final. We continue to resort mainly to patches from Mixamo, cutting, pasting, and editing clips for our most complicated movements, but at least they no longer stutter as much or as clear as before and allow us to work on the code properly. The logic of the fences is quite simple. We only applied a condition where, if when detecting an obstacle in front of us, we do not find behind it a horizontal surface, as it would happen with jump up to objects, we check again for a horizontal surface with an offset much closer of 5 to 10 centimeters. This should work with all our fences, since they use primitive box colliders. If we detect this nearest surface, then we transition to our parkour state with a fence animation corresponding to the height of that surface detected. And in this case, since we know that there is no surface where to stand later, at the end of the uphill twin and the indicated frontal movement, we continue with a downhill twin that simply uses the opposite values of the first, this one with its own animation curve, since the movements are probably different. The detection of fences and stepped obstacles only start at the moment of pressing the jump button, so in theory, it should not be such an expensive process in resources. Although with tags and layers to separate obstacles and animations, I'm no longer so sure, so I guess I might regret this later. For this sample video, I left the raycast active in update for visibility, but in reality these are quite selective processes, such as you estimated audience, who might be interested in our project. If so, why not also get interested in subscribing and liking the video? Like my IQ, we're extremely close to reaching 3 digits, and with your eternally appreciated assistance, I think we could make it happen. Anyway, returning to the project, the next logic is the detection of edges to hang from falling. Nothing too complicated, but a process more costly in resources. During the falling state, in update, we shoot a frontal raycast from the location of our hands in the hanging animation. If this ray detects an obstacle in front, we shoot another much shorter vertical ray, slightly displaced to the front and up, to see if in this obstacle we can find an horizontal surface. If so, we transition to the hanging state. From where we can let ourselves fall, or use the previous logic of surface detection to know if we can climb an step-up object, or climb over a fence-style object. How nice it is when everything starts working together, is it not? And finally, the climbing logic. Oh, how long it took to adjust this code. This is the reason why I cannot upload new videos on Saturday mornings. Just when I thought I had finished, something strange kept breaking, hidden beneath lines and lines of code of detection and behaviors. In addition to everything, this is the code that demands more resources, something that doesn't make me very happy at all, but at least in this devlog I can say that we finally finished it. At least for the most part. Let me explain. The ladder, which is the most complicated part, already works 100% without complaints or problems. The part I regret is that no one wanted to use it with the jump button, which is my preference, but I think that there were enough interactions with jumping, and that this made the interaction with the stairs more fluid. The reason it sucks is that we have to be detecting stairs almost all the time. We limit it only while the forward input of the control is pressed, but the raycast is constantly triggering during the free movement state and while falling. If we detect a climbable object, depending on whether the tag is a ladder or an irregular wall, we go to the climbing state with the corresponding animation. And within this climbing state, we use 2 additional detection points. There are these rays that go blank when they correspondingly detect the last of the upper steps or the lower end of the ladder. This allows us to clamp the movement and upward or downward animations, as the case may be, to prevent the character from climbing where there are no vines or steps. In the case of the lower edge, if we detect floor, automatically the character goes to free movement, or we can always press the jump button and choose to fall freely. I should clarify that for these and all the interactions, it is necessary to add a UI that tells you what is possible to do with each button and each obstacle, but I will take care of this later. While falling, as with the edges, it is possible to hand to it if the forward input of the control is pressed, although it is necessary to add a counter to limit the frequency and avoid spam. Nothing complicated, I just didn't have the time to include it. And in the case of the upper edge, at the moment of reaching the end we can use the system again to detect horizontal surfaces, and in case we detect the floor, we can trigger a climb action to finally end up in the upper level. Oh man, I'm so proud of this code. Isn't it a beauty? It's just awesome when it finally works as expected. But wait, there's more. Going back, the lower ray can also detect the ladder below and handle rotations based on the normals. I can't explain how much I struggle with these rotations. Turning the character controller at the right times based on different raycast information at the right moments. I feel like a first time dad with an ugly baby. Haven't seen anything as gorgeous in my life. So now, with this awesome ladder working, I still need to make minor adjustments, mostly clean up the mess of the code I made, but nothing really serious. What I still need to introduce is the horizontal movement while climbing walls, but after all this work it doesn't really seem complicated at all. If it wasn't for all that time working on the ladder, I'll have it finished by now. I'll have to add another 2 raycast to detect the edges on the sides, but it should be easy enough to assemble. For the next devlog, in addition to this, I want to include a simple swimming system. I hope nothing too complicated, which should be the last part of our movement system. We're quite satisfied with the results, and I also want to adapt the scene to show off all of our new tools. Any comments or suggestions would be awesome and greatly appreciated, and I also want to work on the next tutorial area, which will be for our stealth system. Although for the logic itself, I will surely need a bit more time. So now that we reached the end of the video, I have right here the surprise I promised, and that is that Ellie finally finished modeling our main character. I mean, surely I ended up putting it in the thumbnail anyway, so I do not think it was really any secret at all. But anyway, without further delay, here's Hannah, the girl who will accompany us on the rest of our devlogs, of which her life, and the lives of many other characters, if everything goes as planned, will be placed in your hands. We like her a lot, Ellie is still working on the facial expressions, and little by little we'll be replacing the most urgent animations of Mixama. But so far it works properly with all the animations of our project, and for next week I hope to have her completely replacing our mannequin so subscribe if you wish to see the next improvements. Thank you very much for staying with us until the end of the video. We have made a lot, but there's still much to do. So see you here to continue next week. And for now, just to wish you as always, a lot of success in your projects, and see you soon.